Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into something pretty big in the Ruby and Java space.
Yeah, the brand new JRuby 10 release.
Exactly. And it's not just, a small bump. Folks are calling it the biggest leap forward in nearly a decade.
Kind of reminds you of the buzz around JRuby 9000, doesn't it? It feels like that level of significance.
It really does. So the mission for us today, for everyone listening, is to really break down what this means.
Cut through the tech jargon, basically.
Right. What are the key improvements? What's the impact if you're into Ruby or Java or just the JVM in general?
And we're mostly drawing from Charles Oliver Nutter's article, JRuby 10, Part 1, What's New? He's, core to JRuby.
His insights are definitely key here.
Oh.
Okay, let's tackle the first major headline. Ruby compatibility. It's taken a massive jump.
To Ruby 3.4.
Which is huge, considering JRuby 9.4 was on Ruby 3.1.
That's a 3-year gap they've closed. And in language development years, that's substantial. A lot of catching up.
And the testing stats they shared really drive that home. For 3.4, JRuby 10 passed, over 5,400 core tests.
5,461 tests, yeah. And 1.9 million assertions.
With 0 failures, 0 errors, only 43 skips.
Which is really impressive.
Yeah.
Compare that to the 3.1 tests on 9.4, fewer tests, fewer assertions, slightly fewer skips even.
So the scope of testing is clearly much broader now, shows real dedication to making it behave like 3.4.
Absolutely. And the payoff for getting this compatibility right is that they can now shift more focus onto, performance, making it run faster.
Which everyone wants, right? Less time spent chasing compatibility bugs means more time for optimization.
Exactly. Which leads nicely into the next big change. Embracing modern Java.
Ah, yes, the minimum Java version.
Bumped up to Java 21, which is a long-term support release.
That's a big step away from Java 8, which they supported for, over a decade?
Yeah, and Java 8 was great for stability, but it meant JRuby couldn't really tap into all the newer JVM goodies.
Like Project Panama for native calls.
Panama, Project Loom for lightweight threads, all that stuff was harder to leverage effectively.
So moving to Java 21 basically unlocks, 10 years of JVM progress for JRuby users.
Pretty much. It's the foundation for a lot of the new features in JRuby 10.
It's like future-proofing, in a way, ensuring they can benefit from JVM improvements going forward.
Right. So maybe a question for listeners is, what Java are you on? Might need an upgrade, but the upside seems pretty big.
Definitely something to check. Okay, performance. Let's talk optimization by default. Invoke dynamic or Indy?
Indy. It's been around since Java 7, and it's really crucial for getting Ruby to run fast on the JVM.
Can you break down what it does simply?
Well, it basically lets JRuby tell the JVM how to execute Ruby method calls more dynamically. In a way, the JVM can optimize much better than traditional approaches. It adapts on the fly.
Gotcha. But didn't you used to have to, turn it on fully with a special flag?
Yeah, -compile.invoke dynamic, you needed that for the full optimization power.
Why was that?
Because on older JVMs, enabling it fully could add some noticeable startup and warm-up time, a bit of overhead.
So it was a trade-off, especially during development, maybe.
Exactly. You wanted quick starts for testing, so making it opt-in made sense back then.
But that's history now.
Right. With JRuby 10, full invoke dynamic optimization is the default. No flags needed.
So better performance straight out of the box.
That's the idea. It signals that Indy is mature and efficient on modern JVMs like 21.
And they showed benchmarks, right? Like the benchredblack.rb test.
Yep. Comparing 9.4 default to JRuby 10 default showed a nice speed up.
That's encouraging. But what if you do prioritize startup speed, say, for dev work?
They thought of that. There's the dev flag.
Ah, okay. And what does that do?
It likely dials back some of the more aggressive, time-consuming optimizations to give you that faster initial start, flexibility,
Makes sense. Development versus production needs.
Precisely.
And speaking of startup time, that's always been a bit of an Achilles heel for JRuby, hasn't it?
It's certainly been a common complaint, yeah. That initial lag can be frustrating.
So what's JRuby 10 doing about it? Seems like a major focus.
Huge focus. They're leveraging 3 key JVM features, all thanks to that move to Java 21.
Okay, what's the first one?
Application class data sharing, or AppCDS. It's part of OpenJDK.
AppCDS. How does that help startup?
It lets the JVM pre-process and cache stuff like class data and some compiled code the first time you run JRuby.
Okay.
Then on subsequent runs, it just loads that cache much faster. Less work for the JVM each time.
And JRuby 10 uses this automatically.
On Java 21 plus C, yes. The launcher is set up to use it. The article says it can cut typical command startup times in half.
Half. Wow, that's significant for just running simple scripts or commands.
Definitely. And there's potential to improve it even more.
Okay, what's the second feature? Project, CRA.
Yeah, coordinated restore at checkpoint, CRAC. This one's more experimental still.
What's the concept?
Think of it like hibernating a running application. You take a snapshot, a checkpoint, and then you can restore from that checkpoint almost instantly, like millisecond startup time.
What? Near instant.
That's the potential. There are limitations currently, like it mostly works for restoring a single process right now, but JRuby has support for it if you want to try it.
Super interesting, even if experimental.
Yeah.
And the third one, Project Layden.
Right. Layden is kind of like the next-gen app CDS.
Eh.
The goal is even more ambitious.
How so?
To basically pre-compile and package everything needed, including fully optimized code, so the app starts immediately in its fastest state. No warm-up.
Skipping the slow parts entirely.
Exactly. It's still in preview. Java 24 has some bits, but JRuby plans to integrate it as it matures.
So update your JDK, and JRuby gets faster over time.
That's the beauty of leveraging the JVM platform.
So AppCDS, CRS, Layden, plus that dev flag. It sounds like startups should feel way better.
It should. The article even shows a hello world comparison using dev. JRuby 10 is clearly faster off the line than 9.4.
Great news for anyone running quick scripts or rake tasks.
Absolutely. A much smoother developer experience.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening and they're sold. They want to try JRuby 10. How do they get going?
It's pretty standard stuff if you've used Ruby or Java. Step 1, get a JDK.
And it has to be Java 21 or newer, right?
Crucial point, yes. Java 21+. The article recommends OpenSDK builds from places like Azul, Eclipse Temurin, Amazon Corretto, Microsoft, Oracle. Lots of good free options.
Installation depends on your OS, package manager, installer, usual drill.
Yep. And then make sure your Java home environment variable points to that new JDK installation.
Right, so JRuby knows where to find Java. What about installing JRuby itself?
Familiar territory for Ruby devs if you use UrbanV or RVM or Kruby.
The version manager.
Yeah, the preview versions were often under names like DrubyHead or DrubyDev. The final release will likely be Druby 10 or just Druby. Install it like any other Ruby.
Nice and easy. What if you don't use a version manager?
You can just download the tarball or zip file directly from the JRuby website, unpack it,
and add the bin directory to your system's path.
Exactly. No compiling needed. That's the JVM advantage run anywhere.
Cool. So once it's installed,
fire up Herb, the interactive shell, or Pry if you prefer. Run Druby-V to check the version.
And then just gem install whatever you want to take.
See how your favorite gems run. The Herb output even shows the JRuby version, the Ruby compatibility version 3.4, and the Java version it's using. Very clear.
Okay, let's shift gears. A huge use case for Ruby is obviously Rails. How does JRuby 10 play with Rails?
Rails is definitely a major target. JRuby supported Rails for, well, forever practically.
And one of its big selling points was always threading for Rails, right? Better scaling.
Absolutely. Leveraging JVM threads for single process, multi-core scaling is a key strength, handles load well.
What's the current Rails compatibility status?
The article says ActiveRecord, the database part, works up to version 7.1.
Okay, and Rails 8.
Work is actively happening. They're aiming for full support by this summer.
Ambitious. They also mentioned needing help with the ActiveRecord-JDBC adapter.
Yeah, a call for contributors. If you know JDBC and want to help JRuby and Rails, that's a place to look. Community effort.
Good to know. Do the day-to-day Rails commands work the same? Rails new, Rails test.
Generally, yes. Should feel very familiar. And with the startup improvements, especially using dev, those commands might even run faster now.
Are there any configuration tweaks needed for a Rails app on JRuby?
A few minor things, usually. You need to set the right ActiveRecord-JDBC adapter in your database.eml for your specific database.
Like ActiveRecord-JDBC PostgreSQL adapter or something.
Exactly. And add the corresponding gem to your gem file. Also, you'll likely use Puma as the web server.
Yeah, common choice.
So you need to configure its thread count appropriately. Based on your CPU cores, maybe that 2n+1 rule of thumb.
2 times cores plus 1. Got it.
And finally, make sure your database connection pool size matches or exceeds your Puma thread count. Gotta have enough connections.
But fundamentally, it's still Rails.
Absolutely. JRuby is Ruby. They work hard to ensure libraries and apps like Rails behave as expected.
Okay, this next part feels like where JRuby really differentiates itself, integrating with the JVM.
This is the unique superpower, really, being a first-class JVM language.
What does that mean in practice? beyond just running on Java 21?
It means deployment flexibility. Anywhere the JVM runs, JRuby can run.
Yeah.
Different OCs, different hardware, even mainframes if they have a JVM.
Wow, okay.
And you can deploy JRuby alongside existing enterprise Java apps using Spring, Jakarta EE, whatever the company already uses.
So Ruby devs could potentially target companies that are heavily invested in Java infrastructure.
Exactly. It opens up that whole enterprise market. It bridges the gap. The article even showed a threading benchmark, Tarai, where JRuby outperformed standard Ruby with YJIT, highlights that concurrency strength.
And it's not just about deploying with Java. You can call Java code, right?
Yeah.
And other JVM languages.
Seamlessly. Java, Scala, Kotlin, Clojure. If it runs on the JVM, you can probably call it from your JRuby code.
That sounds incredibly powerful, like
Yeah.
accessing a massive existing library.
It is. The example they give is using Java's Swing Geo library directly from Ruby code to build a desktop app. Just require the Java classes and use them.
So how do you manage those Java dependencies? You mentioned require.
Yeah, Require can load JR files directly, but for managing dependencies from Maven Central, the big Java repo, there's the jar dependencies gem.
Like bundler, but for JRs.
Kind of, yeah. Integrates with Bundler. And then there's Warbler.
What's Warbler for?
It packages your entire JRuby app, including gems and Java dependencies, into a single executable JR or a WAR file for web servers like Tomcat. Makes deployment in Java environments super easy.
So tools exist to make this integration smooth.
Definitely. They've thought about the workflow.
The article mentioned other things you can do, like GIs with Glimmer or JRubyFX, even Android apps with Ruboto.
Yeah, leveraging existing JVM platforms for different kinds of applications, all from Ruby.
And this ties back to adopting new JVM tech quickly, too.
Right. As things like Laden, Surat, CMD support, GPU integration, Panama mature in the JVM, JRuby users get access just by updating their JDK.
They don't have to wait for the Ruby implementation itself to add support.
Exactly. It keeps you closer to the cutting edge of the underlying platform.
And the article made a timely point about AI libraries.
Oh, yeah. The JVM ecosystem often has very mature, feature-rich libraries for things like talking to ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, etc.
So while native Ruby libraries are still evolving, JRuby devs can potentially use these powerful JVM libraries today.
It gives you immediate access to that rapidly growing AI tooling space. A big advantage.
Okay, wrapping up. What's next for JRuby? Sounds like more deep dives are coming.
Yeah, this was just part one. Expect more detailed posts on performance specifics, Rails integration, using the JVM ecosystem, digging deeper into JRuby 10's features.
And the core message from the team seems to be
That JRuby 10 can genuinely make Ruby shops faster, more scalable. They see it as really vital for Ruby's future.
contributing to its relevance and reach.
Absolutely. And of course, there's the call for support sponsorship via GitHub or Hedius Enterprises if JRuby is valuable to you.
Got to support the open source projects we rely on. Okay, so let's quickly recap. JRuby 10. Big leap in Ruby compatibility to 3.4.
Leverages modern Java 21 for performance, better startup via AppCDS, CRIC, Laden.
Invoke dynamic on by default for out-of-the-box speed games.
And that deep, seamless integration with the whole JVM world, languages, libraries, deployment.
For listeners, it means potentially a faster, more scalable Ruby, plus access to a whole different ecosystem.
More versatile, definitely. Whether it's Rails, scripting, or bridging into Java land.
So here's a final thought to chew on. With this tight JVM integration, what Java-centric tech suddenly looks more interesting or usable from a Ruby point of view?
Yeah, things that maybe felt out of reach before, like maybe advanced stream processing with Kafka Streams or Flink, or robust enterprise messaging systems.
Or even diving deeper into those mature JVM machine learning libraries we mentioned.
Exactly. It really expands the toolbox. We definitely encourage folks to check out JRuby 10, play around with it, and connect with the community.
Great stuff. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring.